I am a publisher. I go around interviewing companies and seeing best practice. And so I went to interview Anne, and this is 10 years into the future. Okay, so this is the result. This is what we got. This is what I got from Anne 10 years from now as a story. So Anne McClear was made Forbes Business Leader of the Year. The President Emeritus and former Chief Executive of Cablelink has been named as the 2026 Business Leader of the Year, the first time a communicator has won this accolade. The social internet that she introduced last year has helped deliver a 43% upswing in global productivity. Okay? Our success was all down to getting the strategy right 10 years ago, claims Anne. So let's look at that. Let's look at the whole strategy thing. And how did she manage to do this? How did Anne manage to get from being head of internal comms to being CEO and now president of the Cablelink Group and the Forbes Business Person of the Year in just 10 years? What was her strategy? Basically, when I spoke to her 10 years ago, she was looking at four options. Four options which she could use these social tools for. She could use them for communication, she could use them for collaboration, she could use them for knowledge management, and she could use them for transformation. And so we sort of talked through it a bit, and she said, well, give me some examples, you know, how are people using social tools for communication? So I said, well, here's a classic example. This is Michelin. Michelin factory, they wanted to get to all their staff on the ground floor. They wanted to get them the news of what was happening around the world at Michelin. And, you know, because people were factory workers, they didn't have access to laptops, they didn't have access to the internet. So they put in a nice little app which just sucked the news off the internet and pushed it onto BYOD devices. And was that a success? What do you think? How many people think that that was a success for Michelin? I mean, are they here? Are Michelin here? They're not. Good. Because there's actually a super injunction. I'm not really supposed to talk about this story. We haven't published this story, so I can just share it amongst yourselves. Because it was a failure. It was a failure. They put it out there on BYOD, and hardly anybody could be bothered to read the news on their BYOD devices. So they went down. It's an app. So the app guys went down there. I think it was the app builder. And they did the bit of research. They said, why is it you're not reading this wonderful news on this app? And they said, well, you know, I'm a bit busy. It's not really, don't really want to know about what the CEO is up to. And they said, well, what would you like to have? And they said, well, what we'd really like to have is I'd like to be able to change my shift. You know, I get a doctor's appointment. I want to change my shift. It takes me 40 minutes. I have to phone up HR. It takes forever. That's a nightmare. Can't we use this little device to swap shifts? And so the app builder went back and just got a little bit of bartering software, put it on the app, and guess what? They put it on the app, and you can swap your shift in 4 minutes. I'm going to the doctor's. Anyone want my shift next Wednesday? 4 minutes later, 6 people want it. Brilliant. 95% adoption. Success. And on the back of that, of course, people started reading the news a bit more. So that was a success story for Michelin, but you know, the strategy was a little bit wrong on it. So let's kind of move up the food chain a little bit and go move on to collaboration. So, does Cablelink want to use it for collaboration? Well, Mark, what does collaboration mean? Give me an example of how organizations have been collaborating. So, well, here's an organization, British Gas, that used it to help collaborate on customer service and in particular for their service teams out in the field. So Liam Kilminster, he launched it, Working Out Loud initiative, 30 Days of Yammer, but specifically it was about helping the guys on the road in the vans collaborate. And guess what? It worked. Yeah? We saw hundreds and hundreds of examples. That was surprising, something that I would never have thought of, says Liam. For example, an engineer would take the picture of something wrong with a boiler, upload it to the network. Immediately, other engineers could work out what the problem was and give him advice on how to fix it. Fantastic. Really worked. But you had to get all the engineers onto the platform in the first place. You know how they did that? This is the genius bit. They said, put up pictures of really stupid things that our customers do. And they did. So as they were going around, they just took pictures, and there were radiators going up staircases at an angle. There was things like this. And that's what originally got the engineers onto the network. But once they got onto the network, they started sharing. And then guess what? Beyond sharing about how to fix a particular boiler, they started sharing about how do we fix things at British Gas, how do we improve our management systems and so on. And it's grown from there. So that was a highly successful example of collaborative network. And it's got a very good, I mean, we look at hundreds of platforms. We look at hundreds of implementations. And the very best ones we see are around 60% adoption. Yeah, you get to 80, you're doing very, very well. But 60% is world class. A lot of them we see are about 16%, where people just put Yammer in. So British Gas, 60, 65% are doing very well indeed. But you know what? Cable Link are much more ambitious than that. They want to get into the next phase. So they want to go beyond collaboration, and they want to go to knowledge management. Can you give me some examples of knowledge management, she asked me. I said, Anna, have I got an example for you? This is Dentsu Aegis. Dentsu Aegis, one of the largest advertising groups in the world, bought lots of advertising agencies. And of course, the thing about advertising agencies is they'd rather that WPP want to pitch than someone else in their own network. Yeah? Yeah, they'd rather that JWT want it than someone that they were affiliated in within their own network. Because in the nature of advertising agencies, people are very jealous of their own creativity. So how on earth did you get around this? They set up a Yammer network and SharePoint, and basically they said, if you want to get money for your pitch, if you want it to be approved, it has to go onto the network first. So before I can even write a pitch, I have to put it on the network. Clever idea. And what was really clever about that idea is that even if you lost the pitch, it was still on there. Because what people would do is they'd talk about the stuff they win prizes for and what they win, but they would not talk about their failures. But this system meant that every single pitch that happened anywhere in the world on Dentsu Aegis went onto the network, and it was searchable. So if I'm working on Mercedes in Sao Paulo, I can see what someone has pitched for Mercedes in London. And I can use those ideas, and I can evolve them, and I can develop them. Here's another example. This is Debbie, in our area as well. And she interviewed Bob Crozier at AIA, financial services company in the Far East. He's a social network lead. Every day, our actuaries use a piece of bespoke software called Profit. Even though it's a robust system, there are things that go wrong on a regular basis. So Profit is a system that you use in your day-to-day work, but because it's a complex piece of kit, things go wrong. And so people ask the actuaries, please help me, how can I make this system work? So they'd be on the phone to them, turn to the internal experts for help. These experts were usually senior actuaries. Help with Profit, and of course, busy senior actuary. In the early days of any platform, they say, yeah, of course I'm going to help you. Yeah, I want to encourage adoption. Yeah, I'm invested in this thing. Yeah, I'm going to help you. But then it just gets more and more complex. They have to search the inbox for previous answers, they have to rewrite the answer, and then they've got to send the answer. On average, it took 15 minutes for a senior actuary to keep this knowledge system alive. Massive time suck. And of course, as people got to know that these guys knew what they were talking about, the number of questions that they got just exponentially rose. And so it was an unsustainable thing. This is not the best way to spend our actuaries. Expensive time. Actuaries are not cheap people to employ. What to do? The solution was to build a Profit community using an enterprise social network. And there it was. So instead of emailing a question to one person employee, they post it on the network. Senior actuary posts an answer. Now I can focus on work again. He helped me and 49 others with one answer. And we've seen this also at PwC, the Spark Network. PwC, a very collaborative organization, love to help each other. And in the old days, if I had a question, a PwC person was putting a pitch together, they'd phone someone else. And that someone else would probably be in a different time zone. But it's 10 p.m., they've just finished dinner, they're about to settle in front of the television, they get a phone call saying, hey, we're doing a pitch on social housing, can you help? And of course they would. They'd spend half an hour on the phone talking about social housing. But now it's on the Spark network. 95% of what people need to know is already on the network. It's just the 5% that they focus on now. And the same thing happened here at AIA. They reckon, but they actually did because they're actuaries, of course. They added up the costs, and actually earns $120 an hour. So it was $1,500 US more profitable work. So that's an example of an ROI case that we have. So with the network employees, we're able to tap into the huge pool of internal profit expertise across Asia Pacific. And so there they are, and it's a lovely up and running system. And let me just name check VP. For those of you who don't know VP and you want to illustrate or follow her, she's a great person to follow. Okay, then maybe cabling want to go further. A lot of engineering companies, or not a lot, but some do. GE do. And this lovely company. Anybody know Grundfos? Fantastic company. Engineering company, they make pumps. Yeah? You think they'd be down there maybe using a little bit of comms app or something like that. No, they live on their platform. They live on Yammer. They live on their SharePoint platform. If you go to Grundfos, if you're a Grundfos customer and you're building a new factory, you can put your factory onto their little platform, onto a gamified platform, and start putting pumps into the plan to find out how much does it cost to run a particular pump over the lifetime of the pump, over the lifetime of a year, that sort of stuff. Back at Grundfos, the engineers are looking at what you're doing, and they're coming up with suggestions. Where engineers interact directly with customers on this platform, the customer is 3.6 times more likely to buy a pump. 3.6 times. Yeah? It has transformed. It's actually cut out the salesman. The salesman just takes the order now. That's all they have to do. Because the companies have been opened up, and it's a transformation system. So, those are the options that cabling can go for. She can go for communication, she can go for collaboration, she can go for knowledge management, or she can go for transformation.